going to say good afternoon, but it's basically good night now. It's almost 8 p.m. Central Time on the 14th of September. We do have a coronavirus update. This is coming from the New York Times. This is written by Jonathan Wolf. I know he's on the briefings team over there, and he writes the coronavirus newsletter for the New York Times. The byline on this update today, experts are urging drug companies to be more transparent about how they're testing vaccines. There's several other topics they touch on here. Some of the key points. The global economic hit from the virus has been more than 4 times worse than the financial crisis. An international economic organization said. Now, I'm assuming they're talking about the 2008-2009 financial crisis, primarily centered upon the real estate industry. They also say India reported 92,071 new cases on Monday, the 5th consecutive day that new cases exceeded 90,000 in the country. Yeah, that sucks. Interestingly, they've got like shades from light yellow to red on this map on the website. And interestingly enough, America, South America, red as hell. India's only yellow. I've got to look up how many cases we're getting nowadays, but India's struggling. Let's see. A push for more transparency from vaccine makers. A growing number of independent scientists and public health officials are urging drug companies to be more transparent about how they're running the clinical trials for their vaccines. That gets into an interesting debate about public funding, honestly. I think since so many drugs use taxpayer money, a lot of things should be public, at least public knowledge, especially profits. Not that statements aren't available, they are, but some of you've got drugs, of course, everyone knows about them, raising prices on drugs that have been out for 20 years, drugs that were originally founded with public money, or the research was done with public money, let's see. But that's kind of an aside. The point for this is they're saying 3 drug companies have advanced clinical trials for vaccines in the United States. Moderna, I guess, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca, and none have released their protocols or statistical analysis plans. They say they've divulged enough information. Yeah, they want a $15 billion, I'm making up that number, but they want a contract. And with all of the legislation going on in Congress about, I don't remember the word they used, but protections from businesses and maybe even drug companies, I'm not sure about that, but protections from liability. I know 3M, that was one of their demands when making masks. They don't want to get sued. Why would you? As long as it basically works, they'll make $1 bazillion, so who knows. Let's see. Scientists and experts expressed alarm after 2 moves by drug companies. Information about participants who become ill. Measure the vaccine's effectiveness. Yeah, of course it would. Of course. Yeah. Of course, every vaccine has adverse effects, but obviously you want that number to be roundabout where most vaccines are. Really low, 1 in a million type numbers where you have a really severe reaction. Let's see. Pfizer announced an expansion of its vaccine trials without relevant details, such as how it would measure the vaccine's effectiveness in a larger study, so not justifying it. Critics argue that American taxpayers have the right to know the ins and outs of trials because billions of federal dollars will fund the research. Where was I? Let's see. Um, Critics argue American taxpayers have a right to know the ins and outs of trials because billions of federal dollars fund the research. More disclosures could help independent scientists understand how the trials were designed to hold the companies accountable if they deviated from those plans. Yeah, you just don't know if the government. I mean, independent scientists, unfortunately, aren't a monolith, and they don't have the power to make companies do anything. And I don't know that the administration is going to force them to reveal anything, though they should. Most of these companies have presumably been giving grants for this research, if not outright contracts. I think Pfizer might have received a contract, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Russia and China have already started vaccinating under emergency use measures and are making international deals to sell their experimental vaccines. I have to hope that they're trying to solve the problem and make a bunch of money in some kind of win-win scenario. But I'm not overly confident. Um, Vox reported that China has already given hundreds of thousands of people experimental vaccines, even though rigorous studies have not yet been completed. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know who would buy it from another country though, because you're essentially just saying like, "We tried. Good luck." Um, you know, how often is the first and second draft of a vaccine like the one? Um, Maybe more often than I know, but we don't have vaccines for everything, so probably not that often. Anyway, football's back. The National Football League got on swing on Sunday. See, this is something I'm concerned about because the high school that I live near, they got their football stadium right down the street, and they had a game the other night, this past Friday, I believe. And the stadium, I mean, there were people. There were people watching the game, and they were really well spaced out, but nonetheless, people, concessions, all that. So, how are you going to do? I mean, I don't know that we should be doing that, much less. I mean, they had a back to school bash here, which is just like an actual outdoor party, which is crazy. Um, but how do you do college? I mean, there's 50,000 person stadium up the street. You gonna fill it? That's your plan? I mean, you could test the teams and then just let them play, have everyone pay per view it, and then you get all the money from the economic benefit from people eating out, and as long as you enforce occupancy rules and all that. I mean, it'd be a ton of delivery. So I mean, that's about as good as it can get, I would think. I'm assuming they're not going to let people in these stadiums, but there's nothing on here in these little three paragraphs about this that says it. Um, so we'll see. I don't know. I hope they don't let people into those 50,000 person stadiums like there's any chance to have people act right. Reopenings. Let's see. Wisconsin is facing the highest level of new daily cases during the pandemic, averaging more than 1,000 new cases a day in the past week. College towns are driving the troubling surge. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because I live in a college town and the bars are full. You have to wear a mask to get in. They check your temperature, they do. But then the masks come off. So, and the thing with COVID is obviously don't know you have it. You might not be showing symptoms, and it's airborne. So, and we're talking about thousands of people in a little bar. So, whatever. Um, is that illegal, or at least against, gathering orders? Probably. Are they going to do anything about it? No. No, they're not. Um, um, you know, 4,000 people in a bar. We got a really big bar here. And how many of them? If it's even one grandmother that would otherwise have not died, I'm not sure it's justifiable. Let's see. Continuing on reopenings, school districts in Massachusetts and New York delayed the start of in-person classes. French cities significantly tightened restrictions in public gatherings. Britain lowered the limit on the number of people allowed. They lowered it from 6. They lowered the limit on the number of people allowed to meet to 6 from 30. Yeah. But don't worry, we've got, you know, a couple thousand people in the bar. The country recorded 3,330 new infections on Sunday. What else we're following? Los Angeles began a sweeping initiative to test and screen all 700,000 students and 75,000 employees in the city's public schools. That's great. Every day. I mean, good luck. I mean, obviously they're not talking about every day, but my point is, it's obsolete after a week. So it's good. It's good, and it will have positive impacts. You do test everybody. That's a good thing. You get them out of the pool, but while everything remains the way it is today, it's not going to last long. I mean, you throwing a glass of water on a forest fire. Not to make it. It's not a California joke. It's just a fire joke. President Trump held an indoor campaign rally. In defiance of a state directive limiting indoor gatherings of 50 people. I don't know. What message is that supposed to send? Whether you care politically what direction. How are you going to show up in a state, or at least a city, that has rules, and you're the president, and you just break the rules? It's not impressive. I don't care if you like his politics or not. If you show up to a city and you're not supposed to have a gathering more than 50 people, and you put hundreds of people in there, it's not cool. In prisons along the West Coast, virus outbreaks have spread through cell blocks, even as poor ventilation systems have been. In prisons along the West Coast, virus outbreaks have spread through cell blocks, even as poor ventilation systems have whipped in smoke from the fires outside. Is that like a twofer or what? In prisons, virus outbreaks have spread through cell blocks, even as poor ventilation systems have whipped in smoke from the fires outside. So, screw prisons on the West Coast? That's what that sentence means? You can't breathe, and what you're breathing is deadly. Alright. Amazon said it will hire 100,000 new workers in the United States and Canada. Yeah, I bet they would. It's been like a holiday for 9 months, so good for them, I guess. I mean, obviously, I think hazard pay and spend more money on protective gear. I mean, I'd wear a hazmat suit if I could. I just go to work and home, so, if I was protected at work, then not I am. I mean, we've been wearing masks, but as long as you're good at work, then I'm good at home. I'll order it off Amazon. Anyway, I think this is pretty comprehensive as far as a New York Times update. I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, they're a little all over the place with their topics, but it is a daily update, so it makes sense. Football is about to be a big thing, and we're about to see the impact of that. If they fill stadiums, we're going to have a problem. It's always interesting how some companies are doing well in times of economic distress, and some are doing terrible. I went to the motorcycle shop the other day, sold out, empty room, and I'm thinking they're shutting down, so we sold everything. All right. So, it comes and it goes. All right, well, I'm going to start doing updates, especially on the COVID situation, as we get this channel underway. I'm James King. Thanks for watching.